analog horror is the new kid on the block when it comes to scaring people, okay? Like, it was creepypasta and r/no sleep when I was a kid. That's still around. You're not super old yet. Analog horror is the new thing. Now, analog horror has been around a lot longer than I thought. If I had to pick the first analog horror, it would probably be Marble Hornets with the whole Slenderman thing. Now, I'm not fully caught up on the Marble Hornets lore, but I do remember watching that as a kid. It's, for me, I would believe the first one that I ever watched was Local 58, Marble Hornets, and then I started watching Wendigoon and Creepcast, okay? I'm not going to spoil it, bro. A huge inspiration for this channel was Wendigoon. I just like the idea that somebody can make a full channel off just talking about random stuff that they find interesting. And at the end of the day, that is this channel. You're just listening to me yap about random subjects on the internet. And apparently you guys like that. In this video, we're going to be talking about some of my favorite, and in some cases, my least favorite analog horror on here. I left it open and you guys could request it, and this was taking a lot longer than it normally would. I even had to get out a separate video talking about a pet tier list just so I can keep myself in the algorithm. Because I wanted to do this subject matter justice, and I have picked some of the most noteworthy analog horror, and some that I would actually recommend to my friends if they want to start getting interested in this. Because some of these are good, I wouldn't recommend them to you. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you guys for your liking and subscribing and continuing to support this channel. However, though, 80% of you are not subscribed. And if you watch more than one video of mine, or you've made it through a whole video, brother, just give a man a subscribe, man. Give me that. Get me in the algorithm, okay? I'm not asking you to share the video, otherwise, I mean, like, I would. But come on, hit me with a subscribe. We're trying to get to 50,000 by the end of the year. We do random content on here, tier list, iceberg content, all of that. I got something special for the end of the year, and you're going to have to subscribe to see what it is. With all that out of the way, I think you guys get the gist of how my videos work, and if you haven't, you're going to understand in a minute. And with that out of the way, let's get started with the analog horror tier list. The smile tapes, okay? I'm going to give a brief summary of each of these, and what would happen if you inserted me into this. The smile tapes takes place in the world where there is a fungus, a drug, something gets loose in the general populace during the late 1990s. What this fungus does to people is when it is breathed in, breathe it in, man. I was going to have a crazy stutter fest right there. When you breathe it in, it slowly makes you go completely insane and makes a permanent smile on your face. That doesn't sound so bad. Kind of sounds like a night in Gotham. Until you realize it gets way worse, okay? Where this analog horror probably does its best is the brief jump scare images of what these people become. I am terrified of the idea, okay? And that's where a lot of these do. Is where there is a creature or an outer entity that makes it so you are no longer in control of your own body. The thought that there is a substance that completely breaks your brain and turns you into basically a necrotic zombie that wants to spread the virus even further, okay? Like, I'll tell you this right now. Last of Us is one of the most terrifying zombie games ever because of how scary the infection is. The thought of still being conscious, but you are being taken over by a virus, and this just turns you into, like, some smiling demon within 4 weeks? Brother. Absolutely not, okay? Now, where it does the best is where it's going through, like, how the transformation is going over the autopsies, going through that, how people are getting infected, the incidents that is happening. Where I do believe it struggles in a place, and I'm not going to judge it too heavily on this, okay? Where it struggles is it makes the police just look idiotic. A lot of analog horror does this, and I don't think they mean... Some of them mean to do it, others I don't get it. The smile tapes, for whatever reason, makes the police seem like just absolute Neanderthals. I'm sorry, if 350 people die in a town, okay? And more people are injured, and people are dying within 4 weeks and becoming necrotic zombies, and the police are still thinking to themselves, Yeah, man, I think we have a problem here. What do you mean you think we have a problem here? Brother, I want the DEA, I want the FBI, the CIA, I want the United States military knocking down doors to figure out why 350 people are dropping down like flies. Okay? That's where the only problem I have with this is. It's a pretty effective story. I'm going to have links to all of them in the description down below because some of the names of them are actually called the Smile Tapes. They go by a different name. And instead of trying to remember all of them, I'm going to have the link to each of these analog horrors in the description down below. And you can pick and choose which one you want. Or you can binge watch all of them. The Smile Tapes is a good one. A good one. It misses out on great, barely. I don't know. I feel like there's other analog horrors that does what it does, but just a smidgen better. But overall, I would say it's pretty solid. Angel Hare. So Angel Hare is exactly what it is in the name, okay? Imagine the most stereotypical cartoon, okay? We all have this time where we're just walking through our everyday life, and then you all of a sudden remember, yo, what was that cartoon I watched as a kid? This takes that nostalgia and drives it up to 20. It is a lesser known one. I actually watched this one from a Wendigang stream. Okay, that's how I was introduced to this. So good. The whole gist of it is that there's this guy. He remembers this cartoon from when he was a kid. However, he can't find anywhere that this cartoon was ever on. That alone is an interesting concept. The fact that there was a cartoon that only aired for you, and you're trying to find it, and then boom. You find it on a VHS tape. That alone's really interesting, but then they take it a step further, okay? The tape was specifically made for this kid, and this tape helped him get through an abusive father. Like that's a really cool message. But where it starts taking a turn, and where I really like it, is when they start dealing in like biblical iconography. Okay? When they start dealing with, like, biblically accurate angels and demons and, like, actual dealing with that, okay? The fact that a lot of the times they take the place of animals or, like, there's this head of a lion, head of a lamb, like snakes, and, like, how terrifying they actually look. And they play that into an animated show that's for kids, but it's taking a slow turn, like, to a benevolent thing, okay? I'll tell you this right now. If I'm the dude, and I'm trying to find a cartoon that only aired for me, and then this cartoon starts speaking to me, like, aren't you a little old to be watching this, Ethan? I'm shutting that shit, and I am never watching that again, bro. When the TV starts talking to me directly, I'm done. That's, like, it's funny, and I know where they're going with it, and I do like where they're going with it. But there is a weird obsession with the main female bunny, okay? Like, how lonely do you have to be in your day-to-day life that you have obsessed over a female animated bunny? Like, personally, I don't think I would ever get that desperate, but I mean, like, I guess beggars can't be choosers here, and 100% when you watch it, you realize what it is. I actually recommend you watch this one, because I'll say it right now. Some analog horrors are very difficult to cover. Like, I like some analog horrors where I have to do a little bit of digging. This one is very straightforward. They are going to spoon feed you the story, and if you want to reach underneath, pause it, rewind, and done. I don't like the whole, I have to copy and paste the link of there to find some code that I can later break to find a separate video. Like, that's too much for me, bro. I'm sorry, that's too much. I shouldn't be a full-time job to watch your series. Angel Hare is probably one of the most well-made because they animate everything, and it is good. Where we're racing to the end of it is that they have, like, he's starting to piece together what this is. There's angels that have been able to take the place of animated characters, and it starts taking this, like, benevolent route when you start realizing that they just might not be angels, bro. Like, they want to get broadcast to the rest of the family. And when I hear two angels that have oddly scary sounding names, like this is gonna come up a lot, okay? But, like, this is going to be bad taken out of context. What would I have to do to convince you to join my cult? And I tell you that I'm talking to an archangel. Do you want him to be named something, like, nice? Like, oh, bro, that's this Archangel Benjamin. Or I'm talking to the Angel of the Pit, Abaddon. Like, which one are you more likely to talk about? I'm sorry, when I hear somebody called Azazel, I'm probably not going to talk to that guy, okay? That's going to come into play later. But I'll tell you this right now. The moment the animated angels want me to do work here to broadcast them to millions of people to help the children, I'm good. It is really good, though. I would actually say Angel Hare is one of the few great analog horror in terms of storytelling and easy to follow. Not quite peak, though. We'll get there in a second. The Boiled One. If you have sleep paralysis, you might want to skip out on this one, okay? This one takes the form of, imagine if just out of nowhere, a program plays on your television, and it is just some of the most demented television you've ever seen. Imagine that thing appearing on your television, talking in one of the most scary voice possible, talking about how, I'm going to appear in your dreams. You won't be able to move a muscle, and I will always be with you. Brother, fuck that. Okay? Like, I would genuinely start tweaking on the floor if my TV starts talking like me, looking like that. I'm good, okay? Like, fun fact about me, bro. From 6th grade all the way to my junior year in high school, I never watched a single TV show. Okay, that's not even supposed to be a flex, bro. No, the DirecTV fried our wiring in our farmhouse that they actually had to send in another guy to fix it. We never watched a single piece of television for around 7 years. I missed the entire run of regular show, so I probably would have been okay with this. Yeah, that meant I missed out on all the online gaming from Call of Duty Black Ops 1 all the way up to Fortnite. That's how long I didn't play an online game, bro. Yeah, man, I had a different childhood. The Boiled One, though, comes onto my television, talks about how he's going to see me when my sleep paralysis, okay? I've had sleep paralysis before. I remember that. That shit effed me up. But, like, it effed me up in the way of being like, guess I'm going back to bed. Like, if I get hit with sleep paralysis, I'm just going to go back to sleep. Because I think that's my body telling me, yo, bro, time to go to bed. But if I see the Boiled One standing over me, started, like, chanting some dark shit to me, I'm good, bro. And I could get into more of what I think it is. Like, for one, I think it's a fallen angel. I think it knows too much. I mean, in the opening video, it talks about how when you want to watch this image, or watch this program that was recorded, you have to start preaching certain, like, words of the Bible to protect you against evil. I'm immediately out, okay? The moment you want to start bringing in the protection of the big G to watch something, I'm not messing with it, bro. Like, if you want my opinion on the supernatural, I think, like, less than 1% of the time, something weird happens. But I'm not going to F with that 1%. As an analog horror, it does a lot of stuff very well. I would like to know more of what's going on. From what we really understand, this program came on in the middle of nowhere, infected people with sleep paralysis, slowly caused them to go insane and die. There's one cool thing where a dude had, he knew Morse code and then blinked what he said with his, like, basically did this. That's actually happened before. And then they said scary stuff, like, he's with us. Yeah, it's some scary shit. I'm not gonna lie, bro. And if you have sleep paralysis, it's gonna F you up. But I would probably say it's a good analog horror. Around at the same level as the Smiling Tapes. The Backrooms, brother. Kane Pixels is like the Michael Jordan of analog horror. This man puts out banger after banger after banger. Okay? And he'll do it so consistently, it's actually insane. Brother, at 15 years old, this man was making full CGI renders of work. Like, this guy's the GOAT, okay? Like, if you ever watch my content, Kane, good job, dude. Like, I have to respect the grind. The Backrooms is easily, probably the most iconic analog horror of all time. Like, let's think about how far the Backrooms has gotten. Like, people have requested me to do, like, this full Backrooms. I might even do a video ranking different levels in the Backrooms. I don't know enough about it to do it, because you could watch the entire analog horror about the Backrooms, and it doesn't touch on the full lore of the Backrooms. But the idea of just going through your everyday life, and then you just no-clip through reality, and then you land into some liminal space like this that's almost completely endless. And that the more, like, I'll tell you this, bro. Empty areas fuck with me, okay? Like, if I was in an empty hospital, I might start tweaking. If you put me here, like, this doesn't even look good, bro. I'm not doing that. Backrooms, and the fact that there's entities in there that are gonna fuck you up. I know somebody's gonna say, well, you can actually get out. I don't know the lore, so I wouldn't be able to get out of this. The Backrooms, though, objectively, is pretty hype, and it's pretty easy to follow. You don't have to do a ton of work to do the storytelling. It's peak, bro. It's one of the few peak here. There's going to be more in peak. This isn't the only one. In fact, I'm going to wrap it right back with another one. The Mandela Catalogue. Peak, dude. The Mandela Catalogue is so good, bro. If you ever see the trend of, like, if you see a person that looks a lot like you, but, like, slightly different, run. That's where it comes from, Mandela Catalogue. I remember when this took over the internet for a little bit. Imagine this. You're just chilling in your everyday life, okay? And then, late at night, you hear a crashing in your kitchen. Somebody broke in through the window. And then, you look into the kitchen, and you see a version of yourself, but it looks like a grossly contorted version, a creature, an entity that is slowly trying to turn into you. And then throw in the fact that you literally can't do anything against it, bro. You could run, but it's going to take you out. This has some of the most effective horror I've seen in analog horror. It is very good. The writing... The only times where I found the writing is a little bit meh is that some characters I feel like went evil a little bit too quickly. I don't want to spoil it because I actually really recommend you get into the Mandela Catalogue if you want to get into it, and it's probably one of the easiest to get into. The only one that I would say is more straightforward is probably the Angel Hare. Mandela Catalogue is just peak. It's so good, bro. But outside of that one complaint, brother, it's also peak, and I think Mandela Catalogue is probably the best. It probably is the best analog horror out there right now, and it's still going strong to this very day. And I might even make a video breaking it down, but there's a few here that, like, I'm gonna spoil it. The next one that I'm about to cover after this, I might actually make a video on it, because I think it's criminal. Midwest Angelica. This is what made this video take so long, okay? Because I was in the middle of filming this video, and then I got a notification. Creekcast, Midwest Angelica. The only reason that I stopped it and then wanted to cover it is because people requested Midwest Angelica. Because it is so good, but it does not get the recognition that I believe it deserves. So I watched the Creepcast of Midwest Angelica. Midwest Angelica's so good, bro. It is one of the best analog horrors I've seen that hasn't gotten, like, Mandela Catalogue is a staple of the analog horror scene. The Backrooms is probably the most well-known one. Midwest Angelica needs more recognition. Okay, imagine this, bro. A meteorite hits down on Earth, and then this weird fleshy virus, something out of The Thing, okay? 1990s The Thing, that scary stuff, comes in and then starts assimilating biomass, okay? So boom, we got the aliens coming into play. And then the aliens figure out a way to convince the humans to follow it. So before it ever comes here, it hits Earth, but it hits Earth with these brainwaves that starts convincing people of a coming angel, the Archangel Azazel. Okay, to give you the lore on what Azazel is, okay? Azazel was said to be one of the, like, okay, let me just first start off by this. This is like extracurricular Bible, okay? This is like extracurricular Judeo-Christian stuff. So, Azazel was said to be the angel that came down and taught men how to build armor, knives, weaponry, and gave them the knowledge of that and how to work down fine stones and the metal of the earth. Effectively, the angel that started us with advanced warfare. It is so interesting that this angel that was coming back again, so it realized that this could come again. It messages the people on Earth of a second coming of Azazel. and convinces them that it is going to bring knowledge of how to bring humanity closer to God. A big symbolic thing in this analog horror is the Tower of Babel. Like, how far is humanity going to go to get near the same level of God, but still falling? Where, like, the hubris of humanity is going to be its folly. Like, our greatest asset is what we can make, but how far is that going to play into our own demise? That plays into here a lot. Okay, it probably has one of the hardest lines I've ever heard in an analog horror, and that is, we have beaten the cataclysm, and now we're more powerful than God. Never mind that is one of the most crazy lines I've ever heard in an analog horror. Like, it comes off hard, but because of the Tower of Babel, like, storyline that they're playing with, I knew immediately when he said that, they were coming back and they were gonna F us up. Okay? So this creature that is a meteorite, like 44 miles in diameter, okay, starts imprinting people with, like, images of, like, a coming cataclysm and what it looks like, bro. It convinces people that it is a coming angel, okay? And then it starts making, like, assimilating biomass. It turns into basically large towers of bone and flesh made out of people. And these towers turn into temples and chapels. It is fucking terrifying, bro. But I love it. And then the military comes in and they start napalming it. And then the storyline gets even crazier. I love it, bro. I love it. Midwest Angelica is it's on the cusp of peakdom. But it's not quite there, bro. Give me a little bit more, and I'm going to put you in peak. And now, the opposite of peak. The Painter, bro. This is what happens when you get a little bit too edgy for me, okay? Like, I am okay if you cover the demon stuff. I am okay if you cover Cthulhu. Hollow Earth. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a lot of dark, like, subject matter. I am okay with it. As long as it plays into the story, bro. I'm reading the entirety of Berserk and planning on making a video on that, bro. Berserk is crazy dark as a story. But I dig it because they use the darkness in there to illustrate a point and tell it. The Painter doesn't really. Okay? I'm going to be brutally honest on here. This is a story about a serial killer who paints pictures of his victims. And it's just so needlessly crazy. Like, it'll be some stuff where it's like, the police arrive on the scene. The child was skinned alive and set ablaze. And it's like, bro, what? You haven't caught this man yet? And it's like, yes, this is the 13th victim of this serial killer. No, how? We cannot find... Brother, how can you not find this guy? Is he superhuman? I don't want to be too mean here, but the guy who made it said that he doesn't care about the storyline, and he just does this to sell merch of his paintings. And I'll be real here. Are the paintings cool? Yes. But they're just so horrific looking, I don't understand why anybody would want to look at them for longer than 5 minutes. This is too dark for me, okay? Like, and then it plays into, like, some sexual, like essay stuff that is a little bit mutts for me. Like, that's where I start drawing the line. Like, you gotta be very careful with how you introduce that into a story for me to still do it. But it does that so lazy, and it'll go into, yeah, and he essayed her. Like, okay, we get it, bro. You're not edgy. This is just getting weird, okay? This is one of the few that I would actually consider a bad analog horror. It's just too much for me, bro. Like, there's a level, and you just went way past it, okay? Like, come on, if you're gonna do the dark shit, make it play into it. Other than that, I don't want it. Greylock. Peakdom, bro. This one is so good. The only thing that I would say would be... I would put against it is that this one is going to be harder to follow. I'll say it right now. Hare is the easiest storyline to follow out of the entirety of analog horror. Midwest Angelica, pretty easy to follow. Backrooms, man, like, there we start getting into medium difficulty of finding out the lore. Greylock, you're gonna have to write down names, write down dates to understand what's going on. but it's still entertaining regardless. So basically what happened is, I'm going to give you the quick lore breakdown. The U.S. government goes into Mount Greylock, okay? They find out by doing some excavation work that there is a lot of unknown artifacts from, like, Egypt, Sweden, cultures that were never supposed to be, like, talking to each other. They have older artifacts inside of Mount Greylock, which is a real place, by the way. And then through that, so a lot of weird shit starts happening. They found that a way to channel, like, this ancient deity that's been chilling out in Mount Greylock, which is basically just an eldritch god, is to basically make your own imaginary friends, okay? But the imaginary friends are essentially demons, and it never goes well for anybody. And you're going to have some pretty scary moments. This also has some of the most effective, grotesque imagery I've ever seen in an analog horror. There's one where it's like, I call it the dog lady video. I don't even want to spoil it, bro. It also has some of the best CGI that I've seen. Storyline is probably a 50% easy to follow. Imagery is awesome. I'm going to put it in peak, though. I personally really like Greylock. Greylock's my top 3 favorite analog horrors currently on the market. I don't want to spoil too much because it is pretty good. Like, I just can't. Bro, peak. Vita Carnis. Vita Carnis was one of the most suggested by you guys, and thankfully, it is pretty good. I really like it. Vita Carnis takes place in a timeline where there's this invasive creature that spawns in on Earth. They're unsure whether it was extraterrestrial. I think it was. I either think this is like an extraterrestrial entity similar to the Midwest Angelica, or I think this is like an extra-dimensional thing because they start playing with magic later on. Imagine there being like a invasive flesh creature that mimics what like wild weeds looks like. It starts growing like meat vines everywhere. And then the meat vines sprout these cocoons that become these little, like, meat dogs. Basically, think of a hairless cat, but fat. Turns into that. And then from there, it starts turning into more and more crazy creatures. Until you get a flesh creature that is meant to hunt people. Vita Carnis means living meat. It does so much with that. You're dealing from everything from little tiny practical effects CGI flesh dogs to there is a meat god that is basically hanging out in Canada. Does it sound weird? Yes. Does it go weird? Yes. However, it also hits you in the there is a meat creature that is the natural hunter of humanity. Like, the thought that there being a natural predator against humans is objectively pretty cool, and I think could be played with a little bit more. And Vita Carnis is very effective with it. I'm a big fan of Vita Carnis. I'm going to put it, though, at the top of good. It's not quite in our great, but it is pretty good. The Abaddon Archives, okay. The Abaddon Archives. My note would be on this one. Play a little bit into so but don't tell. My biggest gripe with the Abaddon Archives is it tells you way too much, way too early. Like, I know what the monster is within 3 videos. That's where I feel like we faltered a little bit. What did this the best was the Mandela Catalogue. The Mandela Catalogue had you wondering what these things were until about, like, a quarter or halfway through the series, and then you figure out what it is. The Abaddon Archives, you find out what the monster is within the first 3 episodes. However, it is pretty effective with it. There is some really scary imagery that works pretty well. Some jump scares sometimes hit, sometimes don't. And as far as where they're going with the story, I like the idea of Hollow Earth aliens. Hollow Earth aliens is so cool. Like, not a lot of people want to play with Hollow Earth. Not a lot of people want to play with the North Pole entrance in the Hollow Earth. And this man made an analog horror on it. I got to give him respect on that. The Abaddon Archives, though, I'm going to put it bottom of good. I cannot stress this enough. Me knowing what the monster is within the first 2 episodes, and then me scratching my head like, okay, if they're hyper advanced, why do they have to resort to crawling out of the ground? Like, if maybe that's a question that's going to be answered, but like, it's a little bit much. Like, I'm going to put it at the bottom of good. It's not quite meh. It's definitely not bad. Bottom of good. Man in the Suit. Somebody made a Godzilla analog horror, okay? And what I do like about this one is they can take deleted scenes from old Godzilla movies, like the old Godzilla movies, and then paint them in a whole new light of it being like somebody possessed the Godzilla suit and the flesh like molded into it, and he's basically becoming a Godzilla. Here's the problem I have with it. It's a bit much, okay? Like, this one isn't even necessarily scary. Like, yeah, is there like a cool body horror element to it? Yes. I do like, I think it's like a scary idea of like your body melting inside of a animatronic mascot of Godzilla, and then you slowly think you've become Godzilla. At the same time, that's not a problem that can't get fixed with some gasoline and a 9. Like, maybe that's the American inside of me. This does not sound like a crazy problem to solve. Like, personally speaking, the moment I start finding out that the Godzilla thing is trying to kill people, the moment this is getting figured out very quickly. It does have some effective imagery, however, it just took me out of it, the fact that, like, oh, so it's a dude just melting inside of a suit. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put it in meh. That's gonna sound mean because people do like it. Outside of the subject matter, it's just not uber effective. Maybe I'm just not into Godzilla and it just doesn't hit. Marble Hornets. Marble Hornets, I do believe, was the first mainstream one. Okay, Local 58 might have been before, but I do remember Marble Hornets got a really bad movie. Marble Hornets, that's what jump-started the whole Slenderman thing. Do you remember that? Do you remember the pages of Slenderman, that game that you could play on like any school computer that like every big YouTuber played? Markiplier, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, all the big guys played it. Matt Pat made a whole video talking about it before he did the Five Nights at Freddy's videos. Marble Hornets did it first, and I'll be real. Marble Hornets, the original Marble Hornets is probably one of the easiest to follow because it's not even filmed. Like, this one almost didn't make it on because it almost isn't an analog horror. However, because people reference this as the grandfather of analog horror, I gotta put it on there. Think of a found footage Slenderman movie, but like better than Marble Hornets Slenderman. That is what this is. This is better than the movie that released, and I'm going to put this one, honestly, because of how early it was on the game, I'm going to put it at the bottom of great. It really is good. Like, I cannot stress that enough. And finally, my first analog horror, Local 58. Local 58 takes the place of, it's basically like a news organization, but it takes a run into its Cthulhu. Imagine if the moon was evil, okay? And the news was trying to convince you into looking at the moon and being taken advantage of by an eldritch god. That's really cool. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, what am I gonna do? I look at the moon and then I instantly fall underneath its control. And the idea that the moon is just an egg of an eldritch god is so terrifying. I like that. I really do like that. I think my favorite part of it is probably the animated story it does with, like, the skeleton. That's pretty cool. I like when they play with animated stuff. Mandela Catalogue did it. Hare did it. Local 58 probably did it first. I like how they did it. And they play with the idea that the U.S. government, like, it plays the emergency U.S. government siren, and if you've never heard it, it is terrifying. The thought that that could just come on all your devices, and boom, we're in a cataclysm. It plays that almost as like a warning that something is coming. I really like Local 58. Does it hold up as good as other ones? It's not going to go in great, but I'm going to put it right next to Vita Carnis in good. And there you go. That is the analog horror tier list. These are the ones that stuck out to me the most. I know there's a few that you guys recommended that didn't quite make the cut because I just don't understand the complete lore on it. And I think it's unfair to rank it on something that I don't understand. At least have a bare bones understanding of the lore. I'm sorry this took longer than normal, but this one required a bit more a bit more studying. The next one, I have a few ideas that I'm playing with, but I'm open to yours. Put them in the comment section down below what video you want me to do next. And if you want a better chance of it getting to me, join the Discord in the bio down below. And then put your videos in the video suggestion aisle. It means the absolute most to me. All you have to do is like, comment. You don't even have to share it. Just like and comment. And make sure you're subscribed. Do that. And I'll open your suggestions. Thank you everybody who joined so far. And I will see you all next time. Adios.